Hello everyone and welcome back to our 9-month world cruise adventure, and today we're in La Serena, Chile.
Where things are flaming hot.
Not chilly, huh?
Welcome to Living Phase 2.
Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Nancy, and we're empty nesters striving to live life to the fullest.
And we're living that full life on Royal Caribbean's 9-month ultimate world cruise.
We sure are. And today our ship arrived at the Coquimbo port at La Serena.
That's right, yeah. And we actually had a little bit of a stressful time. We have a bus tour schedule that's going to take us out into the countryside to see a lot of different sites that we're going to show you today. But as we've mentioned on a couple of these videos, many of these ports are industrial ports. They're not what you may be used to when you go to the Caribbean, that it's just cruise ships there.
You cannot walk around these ports. I mean, it just would not be safe at all because they are moving huge shipping containers right there where you're at.
Right. So what they do is they pull buses up right next to the ship. You get off the ship, you get on a bus, and then they drive through the port and take you to an actual, and most of them do have a passenger terminal, but then they take you to that. Well, we thought we had plenty of time before our tour, and we disembarked shortly after they put the gangway out. And then we sat on the bus next to the ship for like 15-20 minutes. And then it was a 15-minute drive to the terminal. Right. And then once we got to the terminal, the bus just sat there for another 10 to 15 minutes waiting for a parking place. So it took us like 40 minutes.
Right.
And by the time we were there,
we genuinely felt like we had plenty of time for our tour, to get to our tour bus.
Right. And we don't like to be late. And so we ended up being the people, we were those people who ended up making the tour, you know, I wouldn't say late, but we ended up leaving about 10 minutes later than we really should have. I don't think in the long run it impacted our tour, fortunately, because we had plenty of time on the other end.
We hated to be those people.
Right. So just a little point of warning is
time.
Especially in these types of industrial ports. Well, Nancy, tell us a little bit about La Serena.
Yeah, sure. It was established back in 1544. It is Chile's second oldest city. And although we weren't in the city all that much, just because we had a bus tour that took us outside the city, what we saw was really quite beautiful. We even said it looked a lot like Italy. It reminded us of that. And we will show at the very end some videos from a friend of ours who did spend some time in the city.
Just walking the city.
Yeah.
So
that
and they seemed to have a very good time. Yeah. So what we did is we got on our bus tour and we started heading out of the city, but we pretty much headed pretty well straight out of town after driving through. And our first stop was?
Our first stop was at a water reservoir dam called the Embalse Plerico. And although this is a desert, and there is only about 10% of their water reserves remaining there. So,
but the dam's not that old.
No, it's not, but their reserves have been declining. But the dam looked over the beautiful Elqui Valley with some gorgeous views. This, again, like I said, this is a desert. It reminded us a lot of Arizona, Nevada, Lake Powell area. Yeah,
especially as the lake was down, it really reminded us a lot of Lake Powell or maybe even Lake Mead. But
all the cactus.
Yes, exactly.
So this really was just a beautiful photo op stop for us. And then as we got back on the bus, we drove through the Elqui Valley, and we just saw so miles and miles of grapevines. They raise their grapes for Chilean wine and for pisco.
Yeah, well, speaking of pisco, that actually was our next stop, was a pisco distillery. So a lot of people, when they hear pisco, they think Peru. In fact, the town in Peru called Pisco. However, in Chile, they also make their own version of pisco. Now, pisco is you could call it a brandy. So they ferment the grapes, they make a base wine out of that, and then they distill that wine into the pisco, which is a liqueur. We went and toured the distillery there. They had kind of a little museum set up.
That was interesting, and a barrel storage room.
Right.
In fact,
it was kind of funny. She's giving us the tour. She kind of looks around and goes, "Well, we normally don't take people here," but she goes, "Well, come on, I'll show you." And she opens up the doors, and we go down into the barrel cave, and we got some interesting views and got to see the different barrels of pisco that were aging down there.
And
it was a lot of fun.
The smell was wonderful. I wish you had smelled vision.
Yeah, I know, it really was. And then after that. We had a very small tasting. I kind of wish the tasting would have been bigger. It was just a small little cup of pisco each. It was a pisco sour, actually, which is the traditional drink. And then they took us, of course, like all Disney rides, it ends in the gift shop.
That's right.
And we actually got a couple of bottles of pisco sour.
After leaving the distillery, we continued driving through the Elqui Valley, and we went to the little town of Vicuña.
Yeah, it was actually a charming little town to walk around. Had an interesting town square. So we started walking around. We went to the Church of the Immaculate Conception. We went in the church, just walked around. We looked at the altar. Just enjoyed being in the church. We actually sat down for a few minutes, had a little quiet time in the church. That's always a nice respite, especially when you're touring.
Yeah.
We then right outside the church is the Bauer Tower, which is really just it's just a tourist site, right? It's something you just look at.
It was named after a mayor.
The mayor who came up with building the tower, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so you see that. And then we just kind of walked around the town. In fact, I was on a little bit of my next hot dog mission. And so I was trying to find the Completo, which is the Chilean hot dog that's on that list of world's best hot dogs. I actually found a place in a little market. We went to that little market. You walked around a little kind of almost straw market. There was a place there. However, he only took Chilean pesos, which at that time we didn't have any with us. So, so at that we went and just continued to walk the town. Made it back to the bus. There was a small grocery store there that some of the people on our tour went in and grabbed a few snacks to take back with them. It was a nice stop for that. And then we got back on the bus and we headed out to
Villa Seca, another little town, and we went to the restaurant called the Entre, Corda, which was solar cooking.
Yeah, it was quite fascinating. We and now my understanding is there's actually 2 or 3 solar restaurants in this area, and this is the one they took us to. And as we drove up, they had their solar cookers right out in the street, and they started off by showing us, how hot those can get.
Don't put your hand there.
And they warn people. They say don't walk in front of the solar domes, the solar dishes. Don't put your hands there.
Very dangerous.
And they showed us that. But they do all their cooking by the sun. And I thought that was just quite fascinating.
It really was. And we had a nice meal there. They started out by bringing us rolls of bread that had been cooked in their solar ovens. It was quite tasty.
Yeah.
And then
we ordered a piscola, which is kind of the national drink of Chile. So whereas in when you go up to Peru, the national drink is the pisco sour. They use the pisco more mixed with Coca-Cola, and I tried that. I like a pisco sour better. The piscola was not my favorite.
Right. The piscola wasn't mine either, and I would prefer the pisco sour as well.
Right. So then we had a couple appetizers.
We did, and we had. Then for the main dish, I had pork with rice, and you had a kind of a vegetable potato
with meat mixed in it. And unfortunately, we didn't catch the name of it, but it's a very national traditional dish here in Chile. But yeah, potatoes mixed with meat, some seasoning and vegetables. It was actually very good. I enjoyed mine a lot.
Like in most places, he'll try one thing, I'll try another, and then we'll swap plates, so we get to try it all. And it was just kind of a gamble, exactly what we were getting.
Right. So I think that's probably a good time. We've taken quite a few tours. We've gone through all of South America. We're going around the whole world. We have a philosophy that we are visiting their country. I have no expectation that someone's going to speak English or speak my language. I think we always try to use a little bit of the local language. If we can learn to say, where is, please, thank you, bathroom, beer, those basic phrases, we always try to do that. So really we just say this as a reminder. When you travel to experience new and wonderful places, people, cultures. So enjoy the differences and don't let them get in the way of your joy.
And let your mealtime be an adventure.
Oh, always. Don't be afraid to just point at something and say, bring me that.
That's right. We've done that before.
Oh, absolutely. So we also had a soup. We had some rice pudding, right?
The rice dessert was good. And actually the whole meal was good.
It was. Yeah. And it was interesting seeing the boxes they cook things in and how they cook the different meals, using solar cooking. That I enjoyed that stop a lot.
I did too.
Mhm.
But
Well, anyway, so then we started heading back to the ship. We headed to La Serena. We headed that direction, and unfortunately, we were pretty tight on our time on our tour. So we did get to drive by and get a couple pictures of the millennial.
Third Millennium Cross.
Yes.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that was pretty. Kind of reminded us of Rio de Janeiro when we got to see Christ the Redeemer.
Right. It was built to celebrate the third millennium, the start of the third millennium since the birth of Christ. And so you can tour in it and go up in it. You can stop at it. Actually, most of the day we're there was almost covered in clouds.
It was, but we
So-
did get the clouds broke,
Yeah.
and we did get a couple pictures.
Right, so we headed back to the ship, and that's when we talked to some friends of ours, and they just kind of went out, left the ship, and walked around the town, and they had a great time.
They did, and so yeah, the town really was very walkable. They went to a fabulous fish market where the fish just went on and on and on, and ceviche and all kinds of things. So we do have some video from our friend Leslie at Point My Soul North, and you can
We'll put a link to her
link to her
TikTok
down-
channel and down in
below.
the description.
So be sure
yeah.
to visit her.
Yeah, she does a great job. But yeah, I actually kind of was jealous. They had all the ceviche and everything in the fish market, and several people we've talked to said they enjoyed it. But before we tell you what we did that evening, as always, we'd like you to like, subscribe, and turn those notifications on, especially if this video or our series of videos, as you're following us on the Ultimate World Cruise. If you're enjoying it, just reach down, hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost anything, and it lets YouTube know that we're doing an okay job and that you're enjoying our videos.
We
But,
appreciate you, friends.
we do. Well, as we always do, let's talk a little bit about is La Serena on the buffet of life a go back and get seconds town?
Well, I'll say I was glad that we stopped here. I mean, if we were on another cruise that stopped here again, that would be fine, but I don't know that I'd go out of my way to come back here again.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of the same. I enjoyed the stop very much. I enjoyed the solar restaurant, seeing the Elke Valley, the Pisco tour. I mean, all of it was great, but it's a little bit like, okay, it's a small
I'm glad I
town.
saw it.
I'm glad I saw it, but this isn't necessarily one of those destinations. It's like, okay, we're gonna have to run back to.
Right.
I think we pretty much saw most of the town, and I think we did okay. So whereas we enjoyed it, I don't think this is one we'd probably come back to. So again, if you have a cruise ship or a tour that stops here, great. It's a wonderful town, wonderful area to go see, but probably not one that we would go back to a second time.
Right.
Yeah. So we got back to the ship.
We did. We had dinner, and then the headline show was the Frankie Valley tribute band. They were so much fun.
Yeah.
I could have listened to them
They
for
actually
a
were
couple
very
hours.
good. Not
Really.
normally my kind of music, but they
it
got
was just-
your hands clapping.
It did.
And,
It did just make
and
you
they're funny.
smile. It
Yeah.
made you smile.
Like, yeah, kind of corny.
I really enjoyed them. So the next day was a sea day, and we had a real highlight on that day. We went to Izumi's and had a sushi making class. That was so much fun. We got together with 8 of our friends. There were 10 of us together, and we made 2 sushi rolls, hand rolls, some nigiri, and then of course we got to eat everything we made. And since I love sushi, but that was fun. That
really
was just
was.
a lot of fun. They had everything laid out for us. All the ingredients were there, and they told us step by step how to make the sushi.
Yeah.
So I thought it was very cool.
I really enjoyed it too. Yeah, it was just a lot of fun. The fact that you get to make it, sit around with friends, laugh, talk, and then of course have a really nice meal that you actually made next.
Yeah, so I thought the fact that Royal Caribbean had this as an activity was just wonderful.
Now there was a small cost to the activity.
There was.
Yeah. And as World Cruisers though, luckily we got half off that because it was considered one of the meals. But it was a lot of fun. No, it really was, and we'd certainly recommend if you have some sea days when you're on one of these ships, take the sushi making class. That was a lot of fun. Well, what is next up in our Ultimate World Cruise Adventure?
Oh, next we got a big surprise for you coming up.
That's right, Entre, Chile, and all of us on the ship had a massive shock and surprise when we arrived in this town. So watch for that video and be sure to tune into our next adventure as we travel around the world in 9 months on our Ultimate World Cruise.
Thanks for watching, friends. I hope you have a beautiful day. Take care.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye now.